Hey, Chris Jenkins, credentialed member of the media, covering the Carolina Panthers for Charlotte Vibe, a.k.a. Man of the People, as you have a friend in the media, which is myself, bringing you the latest in the Carolina Panthers matchup, preseason game number 2, Carolina Panthers 12, New York Jets 15. So we have now lost 2 games in a row. Let me just tell you, it is beyond cold where I'm at right now. I went to set up, do my live broadcast from the field, look up and see that it's raining. Couldn't tell that it was raining from the press box, so I then had to run back into the stadium, find a spot, which is right here, and man, I am freezing. But nevertheless, we're going to go ahead and get your recap of this matchup tonight, in which, to be honest with you, we can't talk about much as a whole for the team, right? You have a night where you have 38, I believe was the exact number of players that were inactive. I don't have my note right in front of me, but I know that number was in the 30s for players that were inactive tonight. So you did not see any of your starters from the offensive side. You didn't see any of your starters from the defensive side. We saw much of that this past Thursday with the joint practice with the Carolina Panthers and the Jets, in which I figured with that being such a good performance, defense had over 5 turnovers in that matchup. Offense had 0. Bryce Young looked good. Bryce Young threw deep. Bryce Young scrambled around. Terrace Marshall looked good. So I had a feeling from that standpoint that you wouldn't see a lot of the starters, and we didn't. So we're going to go ahead and talk about some of the things that I was able to extract from that. But first, let me get you going with some sights of the game. So encourage you, if you enjoy these photographs, make sure you follow us over on Instagram, where we post even more photographs from the games. I like to say a lot of pictures that you might see out there circulating were taken originally by our staff photographer, Patrick Snyder. So I'm going to lead you with the photos from the game. So here we go. All right, so this first picture up is Jonathan Mingo getting a little reception tonight. Felipe Franks, tight end. Look at that photo. Got that hand perfectly placed on the ground there, but tight end Felipe with the reception right there. On this one, you got our defender, Villain. I hope I said his name right, Villan, getting in on some pressure on the quarterback here on this play. Man, Robinson had a good game. I'm going to show you guys the stats very shortly here. But here's a great shot of Robinson getting in. Got the quarterback, man, upended, about to do a head plant. Great, great photo, again, by our staff photographer. If you guys like these photographs, I always invite you to head over to our Instagram. This one, not so good. Getting stuffed here on the run. I think that's Dylan. I can't see the full number, but we are getting stuffed on the run here. But let me point out, ironically, number 61 that's in the photograph here, he did not have a good game. And I usually have to look at tape to see that a lineman's not doing well. I'm always looking at the secondary and others. But this one I see, this guy, he struggled this game here. Now we're going to continue to move on. This one was one of the times, and there was a couple that we didn't do good on special teams. Eddie Pinheiro trying to chase him down. We were able to get this guy out. Didn't go for a touchdown, but it was definitely a pretty good return by the Jets. Lamar Jackson trying to make a name for himself outside of the other guy that's not the Baltimore Ravens quarterback. Lamar Jackson had himself a pretty good game tonight. Again, we're going to touch on the stats for him and the rest of this defense as well here shortly. Look at that emotion. Look at that emotion from the nice guy. I'm just being silly here. He is a nice guy, but he's still, in my eyes, seems to be a coach that's worth rooting for, has a right culture that he's trying to build here in Carolina. Here you see Dave Canales showing some good emotion there, yelling. I'm sure there was something good going on for him. Up here is our lone touchdown of the game, our lone touchdown of the preseason. Nice touchdown there. And we got just one more picture, I believe. Yes. The celebration of the touchdown wasn't quite enough. Again, the Carolina Panthers fall in this game 15-12, now 0-2 for the preseason. Next matchup will be in New York, well, in the state of New York, in Buffalo to be exact, as the Carolina Panthers will take on what some people have called Carolina North, but that is the Buffalo Bills. That'll be our final preseason game matchup. Do I feel like we will see Bryce Young? I think there's a pretty fair possibility that we'll see Bryce Young in this game. Why? Because it's the last time to have him out there, and the coach has said, depend on how practice goes, depend on what injuries they're facing. Saying tonight that even, he furthermore saying tonight that he also likes to have the entire group out there. I feel like that shouldn't be the requirement, the last part of having the entire group out there. When you play in the NFL, you want your roster deep because you know you're going to have guys that are shuffling around out there. Now, I get it. If the front line was damaged a lot, you may not want to get them out there, but we don't have any injuries on that front line, so let's get them all out there. That's what I'm voting for. That's what I like to see. That's what I like to have some confidence in. Yeah, it was absolutely a great joint practice against the New York Jets, but these guys, you always talk about stacking it, being consistent. And so seeing it more than one time would be something that I'd like to see, something I think the players could benefit from, but we won't talk all that tonight on that upcoming game. We'll have some more videos in which we'll go over that. Plus, again, it is literally freezing. I want to put on my hoodie how cold it is. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and get through some of the stats from tonight's matchup here, starting with the receivers. We're not going to start with the receivers. We're going to start with the quarterbacks because that, to me, tells a story a little bit better about what we're going to see with the receivers. Jack Plummer, 11 completions on 18 attempts for a staggering 42 yards. A 2.3 yard average, no TDs, but also no interceptions. Sacked one time, 65 rating. So Jake Luton, 2 for 2, 19 yards, 9.5 yard average. Yeah, so what to make of that? This is just off the top of my head again. I haven't gone back and really looked at the film, which is something we all do, so we can get further analysis. Man, this sure looks like Dave was not trying to expose anything that he's wanting to do much at all with these receivers that he had out there, with the quarterbacks that he had out there. Just short stuff. So not much passing distance. Therefore, you're not going to get many high stats on our receivers. Jatavian Sanders. I always have to give shout outs to myself for the work that I do as man of the people. So if you have not done so, this is a moment that I'm going to plug my interview with Jatavian Sanders. It was a good one. Just go ahead and, if you're watching on YouTube, click on the logo to see all the videos on the channel, and you'll see the 101 interview with Jatavian. And if you're not watching on YouTube, go ahead and head on over there so you can see that video. But Jatavian Sanders led with 2 receptions on 2 targets, 11 yards. Terrace Marshall Jr., 2 receptions, 14 yards. And, just not much here at all, as you might imagine from already looking at the stats from the quarterbacks. Then you head on over to our running backs. And I'm just going to skip down to the bottom first here and see Jonathan Mingo. One carry, -14. I thought Amir had a carry, but I guess they counted that as a run, as a reception. It was I guess like it was a shuffle pass forward, I guess, that made that. But nevertheless, I feel like, sorry, they're about to hit the run. I feel like that this team, Dave Canales talks about wanting the run to be such a big part of this offense, and I think he wants to also make sure that he has a receiver that can do that. Mingo's got it a couple of times on a rush, a dedicated rush, but they also got it to Amir Smith-Marset. Technically, it was a pass, but it was essentially a handoff that they did to him. I'm trying to step back to see if I can get out the vent. I'm telling you, it is freezing right here, but we're not going to make the show about how freezing it is. We're going to continue to get through this. Dylan Johnson, who had that touchdown, he looked pretty good with his running tonight. I know Mike Boone looked pretty good last week, but Dylan Johnson today did look very good. Had a 4.6-yard average, had the TD, had the 22-yard scamper, which is pretty long, almost twice as long as Boone had. Looked really quick, looked really powerful, good solid run, and Boone had 6 carries for 22 yards. Jack with the 1, and Jonathan Mingo with another. Now let's end with the defense here. Jamie Robinson, 7 tackles, and I had a photograph of him earlier in which Jamie did pretty good. Claudin did well, and I also want to point out Trevin Wallace, 5 tackles. And did you know Trevin Wallace had 4 of those in the first quarter? So my takeaways from tonight was that I really did like the continued play of Trevin Wallace. He been doing well before now. He was one of the guys that Coach Canales mentioned that his stock was rising, felt like was doing good. And in my opinion, Trevin continued that upward tick tonight with, again, he had 5 tackles on the day, had 4 of those in the first quarter, playing some really good football. And I'm going to try to find my notes here so that I can properly tell you everything that I had from tonight that I wanted to go over with you all. All righty, so we're going to actually give some injury updates. Linebacker Tay Davis, foot questionable, had left the game, didn't return. Anthony Brown had a thumb that was questionable. Lamar Jackson had a knee injury, and Anthony Brown, already had that mentioned as well. So I know pregame I was asked about Chuba Hubbard, and we do have an update on Chuba. Everything is looking very good for Chuba. So again, just seeing how practice goes, but that's good news to hear because Chuba got hit, pretty good hit in practice and caused one of the melees that they had, but Chuba is looking pretty good. Penalties is a stat that I did not go over and have on the screen today, but our penalties. I didn't get a chance to ask Canales about this tonight, but I will ask him about these penalties and see if he can give me the expression that he did when he talked about Terrace Marshall earlier this week playing dumb football when he caused a little melee during that joint practice. But these penalties that we have now, granted it's not your starters, but they need reps, so they do not have penalties. We had 10 penalties tonight. I think it was over 80 yards for those 10 penalties. That's a lot. We had 9 penalties last week against the New England Patriots. So we went forward in some areas such as Johnny Hecker didn't almost set a record tonight with punts that he almost set last week in New England. He only had about half of those punts today, but we're still increasing our penalties, which is not something that wins you football game. Dave Canales has been a guy that really looks at all the details. I'm sure is quite aware of this. Doesn't want to get the other team any more help to win a football game. So look for that to be addressed. And interestingly, there was the touchdown that we scored at the very end, just in case anybody's curious. Yeah, in the preseason, if you score a touchdown and there's no more time on the clock, if the resulting extra point attempt will not dictate the outcome of the game, well, then it's optional for the refs to say you can go ahead and do it or not. And they called it off tonight. And like I said, I'm inside because of the rain. I'm assuming it was about the rain. They're like, let's get out of here. The game was called. Again, the final score, New York Jets 15, Carolina Panthers 12. We fall to 0-2. A few other things I want to point out before I get out of here. We had an interception by Damani Richardson, who also had a really good practice this week. So congratulations to him on his continued play. All these guys that rise up, give themselves an opportunity to win. You can't help but cheer for them. So it's pretty good to see him get that interception. With that said, and again, I wish I could show you guys I'm like beyond freezing. It feels like it's 20 degrees where I'm at right now. Let me try to get over a few questions, because that's why I'm man of the people. That's why I always go live with these broadcasts. And we'll certainly schedule another video where I can be sitting down and not freezing and take my time to answer many of your questions. So we're just going to, as always, give some preference to our members out there. Your boy Kale's not really with a question, but just giving me some props. He says that he became a member. Like and subscribe. Support our boy Chris and all his hard work. Hope we can get a W next week for the fans. Keep pounding. Yes, hopefully we can get a W. But even if we don't get a W for me, a W would be seeing Bryce Young and others out there. Bryce Young on the offensive side, Derek Brown on the defensive side, J.C. Horn on the defensive side, etc. Seeing those starters get out there would be something that I really would like to see next week. We got Nicole also signing on. What's up, Chris? Hello, everyone. Keep pounding. And then we also got Cinnamon Davis. Hey, Chris, man of the people, thanks for the photos and the content. You are very welcome. All right. So I think I'm going to go ahead and end it on this note. One non-member question here. You could tell Canales and Salas didn't take the preseason too serious. So, yeah, you could tell this. I mean, again, it was third string quarterback versus third string quarterback. And we actually let Jake, I'm about to get him mixed up, so I'm just going to say the last name, Plummer, out there for almost 3.5 quarters. Again, I really thought that we would see Luton at the start of the fourth quarter. I was about to say second half, and we didn't see him then. We saw him, I think, about 12 minutes. So about 3 minutes into that fourth quarter, Luton came out and got some reps. So these guys, Salah and Canales, their plan was Thursday. They got what they wanted. They played the game tonight because they had to. There's some other evaluations that they could get out of it. I'm sure they did get some, but for the most part, they got theirs done on Thursday. So we'll continue to see what happens and bring that action to you. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll continue to bring you updates about this Carolina Panthers team. Don't know the schedule for this upcoming week, but I will be here whenever they're practicing and bring you content. Hopefully, we'll still be able to do those highlight videos that have been so popular out there from practice. If so, look for those each day. Look for the one-on-one interviews to continue. I'm Chris Jenkins for Charlotte Vibe at Bank of America Stadium.